All right, we're green.
Say we blue for some reason.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna call this meeting to order on the ambulance authority meeting, August 15th, 2024. Take roll, everybody is present except Missy, which she texted me earlier and said she's gonna be tied up in Nashville and she's late getting back, so I don't think she's gonna be here. So, members and guests, we'll get to y'all later, because I'm sure you'll be introduced later. Other than that, does anybody want to, well, I can do that later, but yeah, we'll get to you later on that, okay? And we'll move on to the agenda.
So motion to amend the agenda to add our guests from Unity under new business to discuss communications between the ambulance service and the hospital.
Okay, that will be 10A. It'd be Unity Hospital to discuss future communications with the Coffee County Ambulance Service. Okay. All right. Any other new business? Any other changes you want to make or anything like that? If not, need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve is amended.
Now we have a motion to approve.
Second.
Second. So, any discussion? None? All in favor, saying aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, public comments, have none. Approve and modify the previous minutes.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve, do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second. All right, any discussion? All in favor, saying aye?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. All right, before you, has everybody had a chance to look at the write-offs and sign them and give them? It's only $3,800 this month, so $800 something this month, so,
3939.20.
yeah, 3939.20. So that's down from,
Oh, yeah.
what, last month, about 12,000?
It's down from every month almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, kinda unusual.
I don't know if they had she didn't tell me of anything, if they had some kind of issue that they didn't get them all turned into write-offs, and next month may be high.
So it could be $20,000 next month.
Could be, but she hadn't
didn't
told
say
me
that.
anything, so.
Okay. All right. I need a motion to pass that.
Motion to approve write-offs.
Second.
Okay. Second?
Second.
We have a second?
Yes.
All right. All in favor of saying aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, quarterly final report. I think, Mary Ann was here last time, correct? And I don't think there's nothing's changed from 30 days, so I think we're good on that. If it had, she would have called us. So we'll move on from that and go to, director's report from Michael.
All right. For the month of July, call volume 938, which was down from the previous month of 1,100 and down from last year's July, which was 970. Still averaging 32 calls a day, sorry, or 964 calls a month. Yeah. And up to 6,748 calls for the year. So July basically is halfway through. Last year's total was 11,000, so we're on path to probably be more than last year, but not amazingly more.
But are we trending down, or is this just?
This month was down, but last month was up. It just bounces. So
So it's kind of even,
yeah, I know what I'd call trend, where multiple months
right,
have been low.
all right.
There you are by zone, and the number in parentheses is the average since July of 2013, when I started keeping statistics. They're much closer to their usual, except for Manchester, which is always way off. Unit status, nothing amazing. Again, we're getting some age on the fleet. That's not on here, but while we're on the subject, we've got an issue with the new bid specs. Chevrolet increased the weight of their chassis. By doing so, if we remount a box on their chassis, it gets the box and the vehicle near the maximum weight that the vehicle's supposed to carry. So near that there have been other services in the state that have had a problem. So that puts us either back to a Ford 450 chassis or possibly a Dodge, and I've not, for some reason, Dodges just have not been popular in this area forever, but I'm willing to try to look into what a Dodge chassis weight is. Gasoline engine. But we're going to have to rewrite the specs because they were written for a Chevrolet. The last set of specs that we used were for a Chevrolet, and I really wish they could be again. But if you go up to the next level in a Chevrolet, it's that bigger truck chassis. Therefore, 1 ton, 35. Their 4500 chassis
Half ton.
is a bigger, bulkier. Ford's 450 chassis still looks just like the 350. It's just got beefier stuff, brakes, shoes, and things like that.
So, was it the Ford engines we had a problem with?
It was the Ford diesel engines.
Diesel engines.
But
So
we
if
are
go
going back
the
to
reg-
gas.
We go back to gas, we won't have the issue that
To
we had.
my knowledge, Ford's not had an issue with their gas engines.
Okay.
It's always been the diesels that
So
gave
it's
them
just a
such
matter
fits.
of weight now. It's not, it has nothing to,
Right.
engine-wise or anything like that. Chevy's too heavy.
The Chevy can't take the weight of the big boxes and all the supplies.
Right.
Once you get it fully loaded out. Well, I don't want to name the county, but another county had 3 trucks, I think.
Several trucks.
Several units that they
were stuck
ordered,
with.
and when they got here and loaded them up, they exceeded the weight that the chassis is supposed to hold.
Okay.
And so that became a problem with the state.
Well, that won't, I know it's an issue, but it's not gonna be a problem to change the specs.
No, it's just a matter of getting, the specs are very specific.
Right.
And so I've got to get the weights and the engine that goes, I don't know what the Ford gasoline engine is in their chassis. I just got to get all the specs to change it. Other than that, the next question is, normally, pre-pandemic, I would, old days I put it in my budget. Need a new truck, here's how much.
Right.
Then I was told by budget to do that separately and go before capital projects because it's a long-term asset. And so I would, the same thing, I would kind of put a special note that she would ask, submit your request. Now, I don't know how much a new ambulance is gonna cost. The last number I got is like $320,000,
How much?
320.
Dang, that's almost a fire truck. Okay.
And so, yeah, although I hadn't priced a fire truck lately. So now I almost have to put the bids out to see what number to go ask for. And I talked to Stephanie and tried to figure out, how do we do that? Do I need to go get the money? So she said if we put in the bid specs that, subject to budget approval, then we could go ahead and get the bids out. And then when they came in, if that number exceeded what capital project said we could have,
Right.
then we'd just have to deny all of them and we'd be in trouble because we got to have some new ambulances. And you can see unit 35, 36, 37, 38, not 37, 38, 39, those boxes are all too old to remount. So the next 2 or 3 we buy are going to have to be box and all because we spent some lean years there remounting instead of, we used to do kind of every other one.
Maybe I was just thinking of the remounting price, 'cause that's a little bit,
Yeah.
it's not as bad.
No,
as
not as bad.
Complete mount, that's
But,
right.
but,
That's what I was having in mind.
but
Okay.
we've got to have new boxes and because we're getting, as you can see, our boxes are getting way too old.
Right.
So, but that's where we're at on that. Once we get Ford specs and see if Dodge makes one and does it meet the specs, we could say in the specs Ford or Dodge, but we need to exclude Chevrolet because of the weight issue.
Well, here's the thing, I see a lot of yellow and red up there. They won't get one in this year and then turn right around doing one again.
Again,
year. 'Cause I
pre-pandemic,
believe we can, by then, I know we can probably justify by just showing them what we got,
yeah,
what we got going down, or,
for decades, you bought a new ambulance every year. That was just, and it worked out. Your fleet's 8 years old. The oldest one's got over 200,000. They rotated very well. Again, lean years, pandemic years, lack of chassis, lack of computer chips, a strike by the manufacturer, several things screwed us up to where we got out of rotation, and we need to get back in
Well, we
that.
need to get back in that habit and order every year.
So, but that's where we're at on vehicles.
Are there several different box companies, or how are you limited? How limited are you on that?
There are maybe 5 or 6 that you trust. One of our specs says they must, like in a remount, you must remount X number of year. If you're new, you must manufacture X number of vehicles a year. Because there are some less scrupulous, there it is, companies that I don't want. And I won't name any, but we know to avoid them. And so you write your specs to make sure that it's a company that has made a lot of ambulances. Wheel Coach, McCoy Miller, there are some big ones that have done this for decades that you do trust. And so you still have to send it to anybody that, wants a copy of your bid specs. But we try to make sure that there are good companies. And there are maybe a dozen, half dozen. Okay, there's probably a dozen. Some of them are out of our price range. They make a product that is even more than that in price. And so you send them one, but they don't even bid on it.
Okay. Thank you for that part of that update.
Excuse me. Staffing is about the same. We have 2 out on work comp, 2 out on medical, and unfortunately, several of them are medics, which hurts our medic situation even worse. I have got some new people that we're trying to hire. One of them got his medic license today. So he's a medic, but he's a very green medic.
Right.
But that's good, and so that will help, and we've just got to get them onboarded and get them on a shift. So making some progress there.
Are you having trouble getting people? I mean, we've got nobody in advanced, nobody in basic.
Because those schools only start in the fall, I've got 2 people going this fall.
Okay.
When they start, well,
Sounds
here in a couple months, but medic school kind of goes year-round, whereas the others are just usually in the fall, and so that's when we see those people sign up. Sorry, I'm trying to shut my phone up here.
Dr. Kill just had to do a lot of summer school back
I did have a lot of summer
when you
school.
were in like high school and stuff.
Repeat a lot of things.
Yeah, so they don't in like medics.
This is under unfinished business. You want to go ahead and, yeah. We did a little tour, so some of y'all saw it. For those that didn't, the walls have painted, the bay has been painted and repaired, new plugs throughout, the bathroom vanity's been replaced, new flooring, gutters have been replaced, the bathroom shower drywall has been repaired, and I think that's a new insert
It is.
as well in the shower. He did his final cleaning up today of the building from the construction project. And so now he being Rick, was going to call where the furniture and all was stored and set up a date for them to bring that back and start moving the furniture back in. The biggest delay that we will have to do once that's in is getting the radios moved back. That absolutely is on their timeline, and we can't move until those. Basically, that you have to try to make that the same day, so that you don't ever have a radio issue.
How is the furniture? Is it in good shape? The bed frames, mattresses, all that?
When we were moving out, we went through and said, keep this, throw that away, throw that away, throw that away. So, new bed frames, new nightstands, new couch. There was a coach chair that we just bought a couple of years ago that's still good. New desk for the crews in the office, new captain's desk in that office,
Yeah.
So,
good. So good stuff.
yeah.
Good.
Try to make it, since it looks very nice, try to make the rest of it look nice as well.
So,
Questions on that?
basically, I mean, we've all went over and seen it, so basically it's just a total remodel. I mean, the whole inside looks brand new. So what I suggest, since somebody's living in there right now, when the day you move in, that you you call the news and have like a ribbon cutting and you know,
All right.
honor that. So, I mean, looks good. I mean, outside still may be old, but that inside is totally new.
Yeah.
I'd say 90% of it's just new, so.
He
So-
really did a great job.
Absolutely, he did. So if you can coordinate that with your, when you move in and the news, that would be fine, the reporter, that'd be fine.
Help me remember. All right, that's all I've got.
Did you show medic coverage, the slide?
No, because the computer that's on is in the floor because it was in that building. And so I have the data, I can get it, but I didn't have it in time to get it on the slide. But she came by and updated it. We had to move it from the floor onto a desk. It's that computer that it was kept on is just
That's fine.
one of the ones out of service. It's about the same, I will say that. Anything else?
That's it, thank you. Move on to B, protocols.
Protocols are done. They have been sent to Dr. Christopher for his approval. We've talked to him by phone and, told him, hey, they're coming to you. And so he will review them and make sure he doesn't have any issues. Once he signs off on them, then I assume I can bring them here for y'all's sign off as well.
As far as protocols, I got a quick thing. Some of the critiques I've heard from other medics outside of the county, and you've heard it, I mean, we've had them come in and speak, is, being able to expand the protocols beyond what they are now. And so just wanted to see when those come out, that hopefully we can attract some good medics because of, allowing the medics to do what they're trained to do. I know there's certain things like, well, to do this, you have to have this equipment that's $20,000, or you have to have, this medicine that's, $20,000 a month, things that are cost prohibitive. But just want to make sure that, we're not hearing some of our recruitment issues stem from, our protocols are too restrictive.
Well, we want to be progressive too.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Did the protocol that you presented to him, does it expand the scope of practice over what our guys are allowed to do now?
So we take the state protocols put out by Dr. Holly, who's a physician in Memphis. They put them out, I don't know, every other year. It's kind of a random when they update them. And historically, we have always adopted those generally in their entirety as they are. Big reason is it pushes liability above us. If our medics do what the state says, the state medical director says is what you should do, then that helps us. It helps defend
Sure.
us if there was ever a case. And that's basically what we've done this time, is taken his protocols and adopted them pretty much entirely. There were some weird things that were Memphis things. He had this one protocol for mass casualties where he's talking about how many fire engines, how many rescue trucks, how many battalion chiefs. I'm like, yeah, we don't really have that. So you take that one out because you don't have that. But as far as things a medic can do, I don't remember removing any of them. I don't remember removing anything that
The one
would be
that I
restrictive.
have had, when I see people come in the clinic or whatnot to talk to me, and we're just talking, I've got some medics that come in from other services, and the one that they bring up the most to me is the sedated intubation,
RSI.
or it is.
Yeah, I knew that's where you were going. Oddly, that's not in the new protocols. The new state protocols do not have an RSI protocol. That tells me Dr. Holly, for some reason, didn't want to put it in there. I don't know why. I will go on record as saying I'm not a fan. I will go on record as saying studies say the outcome is worse for patients who are RSI'd than those who aren't, according to some Vanderbilt study that I read. If we're going to do it, we're going to have to write our own protocol because there is not one in the new state protocols. And it required 6 months training, things that were going to be tough for us to do in general. But, and our helicopters all do it. And so usually if they want to RSI somebody before they fly them out, they do. But I'm not saying that we can't. I'm just saying it's not, for whatever reason, it's not in those current state protocols.
Okay. Well, give me the RSI abbreviation. What is that?
Rapid sequence intubation. It's where you take somebody who is breathing, but for whatever reason, you feel like they're not breathing adequately enough. You sedate them, you paralyze them, and then you intubate them and breathe for them. And there are situations where it is the right answer, but they are relatively rare, in my opinion, of the call volume that we run. But that has been always the one thing. So, if
So
y'all
why is
want
that
to,
something that, I mean, you know, why is that the thing that I hear the most? I mean, why is this the catchy thing that seems to be?
Some of it also depends upon Dr. Christopher's comfort level too, and that's kind of right, the medical director,
Right, he
because
would
it's
have to
not.
sign off on it.
Yeah, so part of it isn't, and that's what I was getting at, is if there's some big change between the protocols that we're expected to get approved, and if Dr. Christopher, as the medical director for Coffee County MS, says, no, I don't want to do this, this, and this, I think we need to be aware of what differences are between the state protocols and what our medical director's willing to sign off
sure,
on.
which is why, again, once he approves them, then we come before
Right.
you to say he
And it's
approved
not
it
just he
all.
approved them, but hey, here's some of the things that he wants out. I understand the battalion chiefs, but if he's like, I want to add rapid sequence intubation, well, there's a difference.
Sure.
So I'd just like to know of
Yeah.
any significant
Absolutely.
deviations between something being in there that
A-
isn't
and
on the
he
state
may
or vice
have
versa.
issues that I'm not aware of. I don't anticipate any, but I won't totally send it back and says, yeah, that looks good, or hey, I don't want this drug, or I do want this drug. If you go above the state protocols, then again, you've got to write your protocol, get it medically approved, run it by a lawyer. I mean, it just puts us at more risk because now we're taking the total liability for that procedure.
It's not
That
just
doesn't necessarily make it wrong.
It's not just if you do the procedure; it's if you didn't do it.
Right.
If you don't do RSI on somebody's having an anaphylactic reaction in the field, and you don't do RSI on them, and by the time they get to a hospital or helicopter, you'd want them to be able to get it, but there's liability both ways.
Sure.
If you don't put something in or do.
And the thing to understand about protocols is they are just the things that the medic can do without getting permission from a physician. So if a medic says this patient desperately needs whatever, and I know how to do it, I've been trained in it, they could call medical control, which would be the ER docs at whichever facility, and request it. And if that doc's willing to sign off on it, they could do it. So we've not really said they can't, but
It's just not in the protocol.
right, they would have to get an individual order for that specific whatever.
And do we have anybody that's trained to do it?
Our critical cares,
Critical cares,
so we've got two critical care medics currently.
2.
I can think of 2, yeah. One's out on medical, but, now, they've not had 6 months training that I'm
No.
aware of unless they've done it outside and just not told us, so
Because that has to be done every 6 months.
every 6 months, yeah.
Yeah, another example. Williamson County gives blood products. They carry blood around to, give. So there's all kinds of.
Things outside
Yeah.
the protocol or the state protocol. So are there many of the counties that surround us? Are they doing RSI, or is that pretty much not?
Some are. I can't speak for all of them without asking, but I know some do. Franklin County did. I assume they still do. I don't
Warren,
know.
I think does, but they have
Oh,
a
that's right,
specific
Warren does.
procedure.
Yeah,
They have to
and-
have 2 medics.
Yeah, one of Warren County's requirements is there has to be 2 medics on the scene. I'm struggling to get 1 medic on the scene. So you write that protocol, you're basically saying don't do it, because when are you ever gonna get that second medic? By the time you can get the second medic on a scene, you get the patient to an ER,
Yeah. Quick question: how many times in the last year estimated would one of our medics would have performed that in the field? as opposed to just, and I'm not saying they didn't do something wrong or,
Sure.
you know,
I
they
can't-
did a lot, you know, they did, bagged them, got them to the
can't
closest
think
ER.
of any,
Yeah.
but again, they may just not have told me, but,
Right.
you know, obviously if you're in cardiac arrest or respiratory arrest, well, now you're not RSI, you're just getting intubated because you're not breathing. So you're only talking about that demographic that is in such respiratory distress that you're worried about respiratory failure. You're worried about, okay, they're gonna wear their muscles out here in a minute and quit breathing. Sorry, I'm looking at you, but really that, you knew what that was. I know of one case years ago that the helicopter did one on a trauma patient, and they didn't do it because of respiratory issues. They did it because of injury issues. The young kid, he had
Secure
so
the
many
airway.
injuries. They wanted to secure the airway, and they wanted to relieve his pain and suffering, and so they chose to do it. Okay, I can see that. So there are weird cases like that. But as far as day-to-day operations, I really don't know of any case where my medic has come and said, man, I wish I could have done that.
So, and the unique thing, it's not saying they can't intubate. I mean, there's
Oh,
plenty
yeah.
of situations where they're intubating. This is someone who's still conscious. You start trying to put a tube down and they're grabbing the tube from you or fighting you a little bit.
Yeah, you literally give them a paralytic, which means they can't breathe on their own now if they want to. And so you better get that intubation. And that's the other thing, there are risks. If you don't get your intubation, now you've taken away their ability to breathe, and you're not able to breathe for them adequately. You know, that's going to be a problem. You can still bag valve mask, but, you know, you don't have as good. It's not secured. Air goes into the stomach as well. And so you really want your intubation rate to be good. You want your medics to have a really proficient intubation rate for that very reason. And there have been cases through the years, not in our department, where that didn't go right. They did not get the intubation.
Is it pretty hard to intubate a person?
Well, a 90-year-old, 90-pound woman, no. A 900-pounder, more challenging. So, and you know, of course, sadly, the morbidly obese are the ones that have respiratory failure issues because all of that weight is pushing against them. And yeah, they're harder. Just, you know, a lot of fat and around the airway makes it harder to get that position just right.
One other question, and it's probably not related to this, but we were talking about medical directors earlier. When does our contract up on our medical director now? Is it yearly, 2 years, or do we even have a?
He is approved by the mayor, appointed. I don't know that there's a term.
Is it appointed by the board or the mayor?
I don't know that it's ever been again, historically, it was whoever we could find willing to do it.
Right.
And so it wasn't really a problem.
But say we wanted to make a change.
Okay.
So how do we? I mean, you know, I'm asking you because you've been
And
probably
I'd
on
have
this
to, it has
board.
been so long.
It's been so long since we've had a change.
Yeah, I'd have to
So
do a
I
little
don't know
homework and make
what
sure
the
before
procedure
I
would
say
be
it.
if we wanted change.
Yeah.
Make a note of that and get back
Yeah.
with me on that next meeting.
Is our
'Cause
medical director, does he also do the private ambulance services, or do they have a different medical director?
I'm only aware that he does us, but I've not asked him.
So there is somebody else out there that would do it, because they're obviously
Sure.
medical directors that are servicing the other services.
Correct. I know we talked, or there was talk in a previous meeting about wishing it was an ER doc, somebody with emergency room experience. Dr. Christopher is an ER doc, has been for decades. We talked about I think there's a certified ER, isn't there a classification of ER, like a blessing of ER docs? And that, of course, would greatly limit your choices if you wanted to try somebody who was absolutely an emergency room physician. But you're not bound by the state for that. I know that just that conversation has been held in this meetings.
I think we just felt like because it was a, you know, there's always potential for a lawsuit. You want your medical director in a deposition to be able to say he's board certified in emergency medicine, and
Board
as
certified.
training
That's
in
the
that.
phrase I was
Yeah,
hunting.
board
Yeah.
certified in emergency medicine, which you have to complete a board,
Yeah,
a,
again.
a residency in emergency medicine to be board certified.
You got that?
No.
You ready to go back to school?
No, thank you. Old dog,
Okay.
new tricks.
Is that it? Okay, we'll move on to discounted billing rates slash board transportations to Unity.
Dr. Trustler, you were gonna try to find out a rate?
Yeah,
Were
I-
you successful?
Well, I was not, unfortunately, but we do have some people here from Unity who can help us with that. Maybe not today, but the issue came up last meeting about, and nobody was here from Unity. It was just, I forget how it got brought up. Who mentioned-
Ken called me.
Okay, yeah, so
Is
you
how-
mentioned it in the meeting. So
Yeah.
basically, it was like after hours, basically from 10-ish PM till 7, 8 in the morning when MedStat was closed down. You guys were having some difficulty getting DOAs transferred out of usually the ER, over to the morgue. And with our crews, it's kind of a, availability issue. And then there was talk of, okay, you're contracted with the MedStat to do that for you guys. And so it was like, okay, is there a fee per transport, and it's something that, it depends on availability, but, that's
The-
one of the questions is the financial aspect
Yeah,
of
the
it.
question, what Ken's question was, we were charging a lot more than MedStat does. And could we work some deal with them like MedStat has? It was a financial
Right,
question.
okay.
Alicia sent me an email coincidentally today that stated what we used to charge, which was is now less than the Medicare allowed rate. And so she feels like it needs, which is what I said in that meeting, it needs to be at least the Medicare allowed rate. Because Medicare says if you can do any charge, whether it's a Medicare allowed transport or not, cheaper than you're charging us, then it looks to us like you're overcharging us.
Right.
And so, my policy from both here and when I owned my own service was always, you
Medicare
stay
rates.
above that Medicare allowed rate so that there's no question that you're overcharging Medicare for that same service or similar service. Now, does anybody from know what Medistat currently charges y'all? Are you willing to?
I'm sitting here trying to think, the last I saw was about 320, 350, somewhere around there, and y'all are right at 5.
And 320 is above the Medicare allowed rate. So the question for this board is, do you want to give that same pricing that MedStat is using for those transfers?
I think also there's questions from a medic perspective. I'm not one, of course, but I think it would be, how often is this an issue? Because one of the slides I really wanted you guys to be able to see was the staffing matrix. And we try to run, he's either got a 5-4 or 3 usually. And it's 5 ambulances in the county, 2 in Tullahoma, 2 in Manchester, and then North Coffee, right, if we can. And then when we're understaffed because of people out sick or just not having enough medics.
This is an example from a previous meeting.
Yeah, so that was last December, but if you look at the far right, the green is when we were fully staffed with 5 trucks. And the yellow's 4 and so
4,
forth,
red
but
is
the red,
3.
and if you went back to COVID times, it was just
Lot of red.
lots of red, but there's been good months, June of last year, but then you get one medic out on, and it's like, hey, we want to help. We're just trying to keep medics from getting burned out, because every time you start seeing a bunch of 3s, somebody who just worked the shifts being asked to come in, and you guys have the same issues with staffing in the ERs and hospitals too. So, I don't want it to be something where I think I looked at it based on the calls. In Manchester this past month, they're running about 17 calls a day.
No, about 32 calls a day.
Was it 32? I'm sorry. I was doing just, each crew's running about 32 calls a
No,
day.
the department is doing 30.
Right.
So if you've got 3 crews, that's 10 apiece. Simple
He was
fact.
just looking at
I looked at
Manchester.
how many calls, I guess, came out of Manchester. So I
Okay.
guess it's not
Okay,
quite
sorry.
that cut and dry.
Well-
Because you may have another crew responding, right?
Yeah, because, well, like if the Manchester crew's out, then the Tullahoma crew comes to the comm center and stands
Right.
by, you know, and then they end up catching a call in Lakewood Park, and
Right.
so it's not always the Manchester trucks running the Manchester calls,
Yeah.
but generally, we count it by where the call originated, not where the ambulance came from.
Okay. Well, I just did math of, Coffee County had 528 calls or something like that last month. And, how many is
Man.
that? It's for
Right.
that crew. It's 17 a day if it were just that one crew responding.
I got you.
But 32 calls spread out over several different. So basically, it just meant that they were running, they're running a lot. And, I don't want to say, oh, yeah. I know when I have a staff member, it's like, hey, I'm going to pay you the same thing, but I'm going to give you extra work to do. They're not usually like, oh, thanks so much, in my office. Thank you for trusting in me. So that would be a question, what do the medics and,
So if we made it 2 issues, number 1, price, and then number 2, the ability for us to say, hey, I'd love to, but no, I got 3 crews and they're slammed, and we're not gonna be able to get to it, period. I mean, it just can't happen.
yeah.
I don't want it to be an obligatory issue.
I don't
Where-
think it would, I mean, my opinion is the same that, if they're running back up on the other side of city limits, because Tullahoma's out, I don't
And
have a,
95% of the time, we could get it done.
Yeah.
That, I'm not as concerned about that, but again, I don't want it to be an obligation that if we don't meet it, turns into its
Right.
own malfunction. But most of the time, that's, the issue originally was price.
yeah. So we just need to have a firm price and know exactly what it is and then,
If you can, great, if not, I mean,
yeah, I mean,
it would be just like any other call, if you can get it, great, if not.
yeah, I mean, I think we'd want to help out. We want to have a good relationship. I know I wouldn't want my loved one, sitting in the ER for 8 hours,
Yeah, that,
Yeah, we
I mean, I get that.
We completely understand
Yeah.
all the trucks are busy with
Right.
live patients.
Sure.
Yes.
So I know, all of our loved ones, we would want to be able to get transported, to the morgue or wherever, middle of the night. And these are kind of unique situations, because a lot of times they get, a funeral home will pick up, right?
Right.
So it's not,
Rare.
It's not a
It's
very
rare.
rare.
It'd be
Right.
very rare,
right,
actually.
It's
yeah,
usually either we're awaiting like a TDS call, Tennessee Donor Services,
Yeah.
or we're waiting on the ME, or, I mean,
you
there's.
shouldn't wait too long on that.
No, out of Nashville to come get one.
National.
Oh, not counting. We're on it.
Johnny on the spot.
Well, I don't think it'd be a problem, to help out when we can. I know I would want to know for sure what the price, and just to make sure that that's all nailed down, but,
So at this time, we're not doing that, correct?
Oh, no, we are.
We are.
And we're sending them a bill for 500.
And they don't
Why-
like that,
Yeah,
and-
they
and-
weren't happy
and-
about that.
Not happy about that, so.
well,
Well,
I
I'll
could,
take any motion, suggestions, or whatever on, if y'all want, discuss the pricing.
The last time discounts were discussed, it turned into about 7 or 8 meeting disaster, and it was determined if you open that floodgate, you
Yeah,
may
because
regret
that
it.
could be opening a can of worms for
And
things that
they
we're
ended
not.
up just saying, nope, never mind. New
Yeah.
board members, this is a facility. The last conversation was about county employees and individuals. So it is a little different scenario.
Different,
but-
it's a different scenario than what we are than what we've had in the past, so,
But the motion would need to be facility specific, or
yeah,
make sure you limit so you don't open that gate up as bad.
we need to, tie it just to facilities.
What if you did a contract?
like what?
What if you did a contract? Basically like an open-ended contract that if available,
Therefore making it
If-
just
if
apply to that
who is-
facility because
yeah.
we have a contract, is that the
Exactly.
logic? Okay. I'm with
yes.
That would be more binding, I mean, yeah. that would-
Right.
And who is it, MedStat that does theirs? Is that who you said?
you. It's private.
Yeah, that the contract reads somewhat that if MedStat's not available, then we will cover at blank price.
If
No
units
dip-
are available.
If the units are available. And do that, and that way that covers, that's not really a discount, it's the contracted rate. That way you're getting out of the discount
Yeah, right, that we come up with,
Aspect.
yeah, that we.
of opening up that can that, no, this is a contract, this is what we're contracted to do.
Yeah, I like that idea.
I like it.
You just wanna do MedStat's price then? Is that the?
That price that she gave is certainly, it keeps us above reproach as far as Medicare is concerned, or TennCare, or any of the insurance companies.
And it's not far above our average call, or far below, I should say, our average call price. So, I mean, yeah,
About 180 less.
yeah, I think this last month we had a good average call price, but yeah, I think that'd be good.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm talking about what we charge. You're talking about.
No, yeah, what we collect.
Gotcha.
You can charge anything.
Absolutely.
What you collect.
So we need to
but
make
we
a
know
motion
that
for
that
that?
would-
I
yeah.
mean,
Yeah, so I'll need a motion for that, and.
I make a motion that we make a contract based on availability, that we help
Unity Medical
with Unity Medical at the same price as MedStats,
for more transfers.
however that needs to be written.
If available for more
Right, if
transfers.
available.
Yeah, that'll
Available
make
for-
it-
I got a motion second.
Second.
Okay, I got a second discussion. Obviously, we're not gonna totally approve it tonight, because we need to see the contract. I mean, I
Oh.
want you to write the contract up, and,
If you
we
could
need to
get us
review
a
that
copy of the
contract.
contract from MedStat, then maybe we can
Use it as a
springboard
go-by.
off that,
Yeah.
you know?
So, get the contract from them, and write ours up, and let us review it, and we'll,
Are you okay asking the folks from Unity here if there's anything about that they disagree with or want different, or
Y'all good with
that?
y'all feel
Yeah,
good with that? Okay.
Okay.
okay. So, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. Motion approved. All right, new business, Unity Hospital again. All right, do y'all wanna start off?
I can't, we don't really have we didn't come up here with some kind of an agenda or whatever, but just to see if we can help.
Could you
facilitate-
introduce yourself? So-
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I'm Lynn Myers. I've taken Ken Ware's place. I'm the Chief Clinical Officer at Unity Medical Center. I've got Janice Shelton here. She's the Director of Emergency Services. Dana Vernon is here. She's over inpatient services. And then Jeremy Cook. He is our Chief Operating Officer. And we were asked to come up here and just see if there's anything we can do to facilitate. I know in the past there's been some, miscommunication maybe between the two. And and looking at your numbers helps us to see that you're suffering with the same issues that we are as far as staffing and, but to see if there's anything that we can do, like if we come and we listen and we see what's going on in y'all's meetings, maybe it'll help us, because it's very difficult to have patients that we need to get transferred even out of county and not be able to get that, even with private facilities and stuff. So I don't know, I know we stopped going out of county back 2019, and I recognize that it's because of manpower and money and things like that, but I don't know if is there any possibility of going back to county transfers at some point in time when the staffing and all that gets better? Because I know that that's been a huge issue for us, even with all the private ones. Sometimes we call 17, 18 places, we're going all the way to Alabama trying to get a patient to Nashville. These are critically ill patients that we're trying to get to Nashville or Chattanooga, and we can't get them there. If, we using choppers a whole lot more, but, even then, sometimes, you know, if the weather's bad or anything, there's no way to get a patient there. And so we're just trying to look at our patient care and to see, and just come in and seeing if there's any, if y'all have any thoughts or ideas that we can use to help both of us, all of us.
Can those be, I mean, would those have to be, ALS trucks or the BLS trucks
Yes,
or?
a lot of times ALS.
I
A lot
gonna
of times
say,
they're
the critical
sick,
ones
so
usually,
they're requiring
Well, I would have
Yeah.
thought so, I just want to clarify, well, you saw, we're down 8
Yes.
medics or whatever, I
Yes.
mean, it's just,
Yeah.
if you ain't medics there that you'd like to send over.
We do have paramedic students come a lot of times through the emergency room, and we try to facilitate them staying,
Steer 'em this way.
you know, trying to,
Tell them how great Monter looks. Wait, what a winning
I
personality.
hope you got a second option.
but no, just, I mean, I know there's 2 hospitals, but we're usually the, you know, the ones where most of us are from Manchester and stuff, and trying to, get out here and see if we can help each other out. I don't know what to do as far as, we're the same way, staffing, especially since COVID, across the board has been horrible. So, it's a process. We're just trying to figure out if there's any way that we can get out here in the community and let it be known what the issues are, because the general public does not understand.
No.
Oh, no.
what
And
we're
it's,
going
they're looking for someone to blame, you know, it's the government's fault, county's fault, the
Right.
ambulance authority's fault, the hospital's fault,
Right.
you know, it's always someone's fault, and the issue isn't so much, I mean, and I was saying, I've got a unique position, because like I was telling you earlier, 2013, I was chief of staff, and you were on the board, Tim, you were on the board then, I
Oh,
think
yes, yes.
you were the only one, currently.
Probably the only one here that was on.
Yeah, that was on the board at that time, and I came and spoke, like you are, like, we need help getting transfers, because I'd had patients when I was doing inpatient trying to get transferred, and, you know, the delays were crazy. And then, you know, of course, being in the hospital trying to transfer, and then also, you know, my dad's recently was in the hospital, and thank goodness we have an ICU now. Albeit only 4 beds, but if it wasn't for that, we would have had to transfer, and, you know, so I see it from all those perspectives, and, I think the pandemic really, it changed the game, because it took a lot of nurses and sent them traveling, and with that, there was a big void. And so a lot of hospitals are like, what are we gonna do? We need people in the ER. Well, let's pay paramedics to come into our ER, and it pulled a lot. And so we had Houston Allen, who's the director, I guess, of the Motlow program, came and spoke, and he's like, people are telling you there's not enough medics. There's plenty, there's never been more. And it's like, okay, let's get to the fine print. There's not enough medics to cover all the services. And there's a lot of medics registered, but a lot of them aren't riding the trucks anymore. And that's an issue that I think all departments are.
and the private industry took a lot of them with pay scales.
Yeah.
And then unfortunately, now the private industries, I know, like, I hate to name names, but one of the services, well, like MedStat used to be open 24 hours. Now they're closing at night. Another one in the county closes every night. Another one in the county struggles to get staffing at night. And so they end up some nights just having one or sometimes none. And so it's just right now, I don't know, the field is not appealing for whatever
We're
reason.
circling back to where the funeral directors are gonna be transporting emergent patients, I think, is, you know, like in the 70s, so, when our
Yeah.
charter was founded.
There you go.
And I'm not certain that we're here asking for y'all to give us the answers at all. But
Good
we're
thing.
just saying, we're just seeing if there's any way that if y'all have some ideas for us, maybe we can, you know, have a little bit
You know,
more.
I mean, there's ideas, and of course, there's legalities and who's paying who, but if you have a medic that's working full-time in your ER, you know, there may, you know, I can see that as a gray area where it's like, I can't say, oh, we could pull him out and then we put him on a truck, and, because there's, you know, it's like, well, who's gonna
Right.
drive the truck, and who's taking the liability?
Whose
Are
protocols
you-
do they
you're
fall
paying-
under, and,
You're
yeah.
paying that medic, and what if he does something wrong? Who's his malpractice insurance under?
And years
there's all those
ago,
issues.
Nurses wrote all the time. That
Oh,
used to be
yeah,
a
I
very
know.
common
Nurses all the
thing.
time.
So-
We
That's
just hear 'em all the
something
time.
we've tossed around about having, because I know there's been an issue before with not having ACLS medics. I don't know how many miles I've ridden in the back of an ambulance because there was only be 2 EMTs and say you gotta have to ride.
Yep.
And we would
But-
well, to see what we can do, what our liability and legalities are about sending ACLS nurses with patients if we just have an EMT. So that is something we
Yeah.
have talked about.
So that would be, you know, something that if these ACLS are gonna have to have, they have to have a medic or a nurse or both, or
The state
critical
does
care
not
RN?
allow a nurse as the primary provider for an ambulance service.
Okay.
Now, in the scenario we just talked about, I'd have to make sure. Again, we used to do it all the
Yeah,
time.
we used to,
Well,
I'm not sure
And it may,
exactly.
I think it's gonna turn to something like that, where with the shortage, you know, it's gonna, for
And s-
rural communities, it's gonna have to.
Sadly,
gonna have to
the
happen.
ER will tell you, I don't have anybody I can send, you know,
Yeah.
we're just as short as you are.
Right.
Who am I gonna send?
There may be people though who might consider taking call for that. You know, you might offer an incentive to take call for our ACLS transfers. We used to do that where I used to
Well,
work as well.
I would say, talk amongst your administration, your board, whoever, and see what kind of staffing you guys have to support something like that. Because I know it also costs you money to keep that patient there,
Yes.
you know, not to mention, and we wanna help, cause that person that's staying there needs transport.
Right.
Could be any one of our family members or, you know, neighbors, so we want that to happen and we wanna help. But, first, you know, do you got, cause we know what our numbers are.
Right.
You know, and they're not what they need to be, just to maintain the service to answer 911 calls in the county. So, you know, if you've got people willing to take a call, there may be something that, you know, we can work out after lawyers, you know, pick it apart.
The only other suggestion I currently have, we're running a BLS truck almost every day now. So when it is raining or inclement weather and the helicopters aren't flying, they will send their crew with us.
Yes.
But you have to initiate the call with the helicopter. So you have to call one of the two in the county. They have to accept the flight and say, we're not flying. Then they contact us and say, hey, can we catch a ride? You know, we'll ride with y'all. Now, we're still back to, do we have the available crews? But if we do, that gets you that ALS unit.
Yes.
And I'm 99, but I won't swear to, that they will do the same thing with MedStat or any of the other services. Okay, I couldn't confirm, but, so that's one option. There are 2 helicopters in our county, and again, when the weather's bad, they're just sitting there. And so, we've had some cases where I could send a BLS crew, they get on board, turn it into an ALS crew, and we get the job done. So that's my only current thought.
Well, the larger hospitals can absorb the cost and spend more money on medic, and you have the ambulance crews with St. Thomas Ascension and the Vanderbilts that, you know, you drive down the interstate now and that's what you see, making a lot of transports because they can.
But sadly, and I know it's true, they've called 17, and they're all busy. You know, St. Thomas doesn't have one, Vanderbilt doesn't have one, Priority. I mean, you know, it's those are the cases that are the problem when suddenly, for whatever reason, everybody's busy, you know, at that critical time. And that is a problem. I get it, and it seems to be a more common problem than it used to be, where you can't just call St. Thomas and they'll send one down from Rutherford, you know. And I don't know, Vanderbilt has that critical care ambulance. I don't know what its criteria is. But one of them is probably that they're going to Vanderbilt, you know, and so sometimes that limits who will accept a call based on where you're trying to go.
Okay, so you're basically, and I want you to know, it's good dialogue, so you're wanting to open up dialogue on this subject, so that's fine. So come back next month, or any month that we meet, and we can keep this going and maybe work out a solution. And just see how it goes from there. So we appreciate you showing up and voicing your concern. Because like I say, your concern is our concern too. So we all have the same problem, so, yes, I mean, it was good dialogue. Okay? Any other questions on that subject? Okay. That was the last of our, well, that was any other new business, let me say that, since this is the only thing we had down. Do y'all have any other thing you wanna bring up, anything else? If not, then, that concludes our meeting. Next meeting will be September 19th, 2024 at 5:00, which I may or may not be here. It's my anniversary, so I don't know. So,
Well, I hope he takes you somewhere nice. What?
hey, all right, motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Gotcha. Hey, don't run off, Doc. I need time.
Oh.
Hang on a minute. Hang on a minute if you got a minute.
I didn't write anything on it.
Oh, that's
Except
not
not-
sad.
Hey, y'all be good.
Okay, I was gonna say,